Imagine building a technology company, right? And it hits a valuation of $350 million.
Which is a massive milestone for any tech startup.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have this highly dedicated user base, like 1.5 million people who are relying on your product every single day.
Right.
So how many employees do you think you would need to keep that kind of operation running? 1,000, maybe 2,000.
I think so.
What if I told you the answer was 7 human beings and a cat? Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into the April 11th, 2026 edition of the Sunday Blender newsletter, and we're unpacking it specifically for you, the lifelong learner.
Yeah, that 7-employee figure, it isn't a typo. And it perfectly sets up our mission today, really. We're looking at how systems scale.
And it's a huge scale we're talking about today.
Exactly. We'll be analyzing everything from, how you organize the notes on your own laptop to global supply chains to microscopic quantum physics.
It's quite the journey.
It is. And finally ending on the singular focus required for human greatness. The common thread running through all these sources today is this idea of compounding effects.
Where small inputs just spiral into massive outputs.
Right. We keep seeing this recurring pattern where incredibly small initial inputs are creating these massive, entirely unpredictable outputs.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start, at the individual level. Because if you want to create massive output, you really have to find the right lever.
You do.
And the newsletter highlights this note-taking app called Obsidian. Now, on the surface, Obsidian sounds like a step backward in time.
How so?
Well, your notes are literally just plain text files. They use this very basic formatting language called Markdown, and everything is stored locally on your own computer. You aren't storing this in some massive corporate cloud.
Yeah, and that perceived simplicity is actually the whole architecture of its survival. Think about what happens when a flashy, proprietary software company goes bankrupt or, changes its subscription model.
Your data just gets completely trapped.
Exactly. But by using plain text, Obsidian is inherently future-proof. You own the files. But the real leverage comes from how the software lets you link those text files together.
Right, creating that web.
Yes, a localized web of interconnected thoughts.
Yeah.
It allows a single user to build what the community actually refers to as a second brain.
And the leverage that gives a small team is just wild. I mean, we mentioned the math at the top of the show. Obsidian recently announced they were expanding their engineering team from 3 people to 4.
4 engineers for millions of users.
Yeah, that single tweet went massively viral. You have 7 total staff members, 0 venture capital funding.
Sounds hard of.
It really is,
Yeah.
Especially when you compare that to a platform like Notion, which has around 1,200 employees to manage a pretty similar core mission of organizing information.
Right, and that disparity really highlights a fundamental shift in how we handle data. And we're seeing high-level practitioners recognize this. Like the source notes that Anjesh Karpathy, the former AI director at Tesla, he uses Obsidian.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. And he doesn't just use it to write things down. He uses it as an infrastructure so that artificial intelligence tools can compile his research wiki.
Okay, let's look at the mechanics of that for a second. Why plain text? Why not something more advanced?
Well, because plain text strips away all the formatting bloat. It's the rawest, most efficient data format for a machine learning model to parse.
Ah, so it's easier for the AI to read.
Exactly. Karpathy is taking his localized, interconnected notes and letting AI agents navigate and synthesize them effortlessly. He is compounding his personal knowledge using a system that scales with basically 0 friction.
That lack of friction brings up a new phrase we are seeing everywhere right now, vibe coding.
Yes, vibe coding is everywhere.
It's wild. Plain text is basically the ultimate digital lever now. Archimedes said if you give him a long enough lever, he could move the world. Well, plain English is now the lever, and AI is the fulcrum.
That's a great way to put it.
Look at the numbers. In the first quarter of 2026, new app submissions to Apple's App Store jumped 84%. That is 235,800 new apps submitted in just 3 months.
Which has completely reversed a years-long decline in app development.
Yeah, and the catalyst for that spike is the deployment of tools like Anthropic's Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex. We've entered this environment where individuals with 0 traditional programming background are building fully functional applications.
Right, they are just typing plain English prompts.
Just describing the vibe.
Literally describing the vibe or the function of what they want, and the AI just writes all the underlying code.
But, I have to push back on this a bit. If literally anyone can just vibe code a brand new app on a Tuesday afternoon using plain English, aren't we just flooding the digital ecosystem with incredibly buggy, low-quality junk?
Well, the data certainly shows an unprecedented influx, yes. But simply categorizing it all as junk kind of misses the structural shift taking place here.
What do you mean?
What we've done is move the primary bottleneck in software creation. Historically, the friction of having to learn complex syntax, actually learning to code that acted as a natural filter. It kept the volume of software relatively low.
Right, you had to be an expert to even play the game.
Exactly. But by democratizing the creation process, that bottleneck is totally gone. So the new bottleneck is curation and quality control.
Which Apple is definitely feeling right now.
Very much so. Apple is experiencing this in real time. Traditional developers are facing much longer review wait times in the App Store, and Apple is actively removing several of these vibe-coded apps.
Because there's just too many of them.
Too many, and the human capacity to generate code has completely outpaced our capacity to verify if that code is actually sound.
Which creates a really fascinating problem. If humans are generating code way too fast for humans to check it, we obviously need a defense mechanism that moves at the speed of the machines.
Right, fire fighting fire.
Exactly. And Anthropic just announced a new AI model called Mythos. And the results are so intimidating that they have outright decided it is too dangerous for a public release.
Yeah, during internal testing, Mythos demonstrated this incredible ability to autonomously discover thousands of previously unknown vulnerabilities.
Like zero-day flaws.
Yes. We are talking about deep-seated flaws across major operating systems and web browsers that have bypassed human cybersecurity teams and even automated testing protocols for years.
The detail that really caught my eye in the newsletter was the OpenBSD bug. Mythos found a flaw that was 27 years old.
27 years. It's hard to fathom.
It was this obscure vulnerability where a very specific sequence of network packets could crash the server. I mean, how does a bug sit there for nearly 3 decades without anyone noticing?
It really comes down to the sheer combinatorics of network traffic. A server processes, millions of packets of data in countless different sequences every day. A human tester, or even a traditional automated script, generally looks for known patterns of failure, like a buffer overflow where just too much data is sent at once.
The obvious stuff.
Exactly. But an obscure bug might only trigger when a highly specific, totally counterintuitive sequence of packets interacts with a legacy piece of code. It's like finding a lock that only opens if you jiggle the key, tap the door 3 times, and wait exactly 2 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah. Mythos has the analytical capacity to simulate and recognize those bizarre edge cases completely autonomously.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The cost. Mythos found this 27-year-old flaw, confirmed it, and successfully built the attack to exploit it. All for under $50 in computing costs.
$50!
$50 to crack a foundational piece of internet infrastructure.
And that cost asymmetry is exactly why Anthropic opted for Project Glasswing instead of making Mythos public.
What is Glasswing?
They are quietly sharing this model directly with companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft. Over 99% of these vulnerabilities currently remain unpatched out in the wild.
That's terrifying.
By integrating Mythos at the enterprise level, they're essentially trying to build an autonomous digital immune system before malicious actors can weaponize that exact same $50 technology.
So we're basically applying compounding intelligence to solve compounding digital complexity.
Precisely.
But that same principle of collective behavior is popping up in physical engineering right now, too, specifically in energy storage. Australian scientists have just built the world's first working quantum battery.
Right. It's a microscopic prototype that they charge wirelessly using a laser.
Okay, but here's the part that totally bends the mind. Usually, adding elements to a system creates friction. Think of adding cars to a highway. Eventually, you get a traffic jam, everything slows down, and efficiency drops.
A very standard bottleneck.
Right. But in the quantum realm, adding more cars somehow makes the speed limit go up. As they add more molecules to this quantum battery, it actually charges faster.
What's fascinating here is that paradox you just laid out. In classical physics, individual molecules in a battery act like independent cars on that highway. They're constrained by traditional pathways and friction.
But quantum is different.
Very different. In a quantum battery, the molecules enter a state of superradiance. It's closer to a choir.
A choir.
Yeah. If everyone in a room sings their own individual song, you just get a wall of competing noise,
Like
right?
total mess.
But if they synchronize into a single unified harmony, the sound wave compounds and carries exponentially further. The molecules in this battery are harmonizing.
Oh, I get it.
Because they're acting as a single collective quantum state, the system absorbs energy at an accelerated rate the larger it gets.
Now, to manage expectations a bit, the source notes this device only holds a charge for a matter of nanoseconds right now.
True. But the lead researcher made a very grounded comparison to the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. That initial plane barely cleared the sand and stayed in the air for, 12 seconds? The duration wasn't the point.
The point was proving it was possible at all.
Exactly. Proving that powered flight was physically possible. This battery proves that collective quantum charging isn't just theoretical math on a chalkboard, it actually works in reality.
So we are mastering the subatomic world, and we're building these autonomous digital immune systems. But when you zoom out to the physical macro level, the actual planet we walk on our systems look incredibly fragile.
They really do.
The newsletter highlights two massive physical bottlenecks that are quietly wreaking havoc. The first is on Nantucket, the island off the coast of Massachusetts. Sconset Bluff, on the eastern shore, have lost over 200 feet of ground to the ocean.
And the projections cited are pretty severe. By 2070, erosion and coastal flooding are estimated to cause $3.4 billion in damage annually across that community.
$3.4 billion. We are talking about homes worth tens of millions of dollars, literally teetering on the edge.
Yeah.
And the physical intervention they are relying on is literally funding giant tubes filled with sand.
Right. Geotubes.
Geotubes stacked along the shoreline. I mean, it feels like a massive illusion of control. We can build an AI that finds a 27-year-old bug in seconds, but our defense against the Atlantic Ocean is basically a giant sandbag.
Well, I wouldn't call it an illusion of control exactly. I'd call it an engineering stopgap.
A stopgap.
Yeah. The engineers installing those geotubes know they aren't defeating the ocean. They are simply trying to absorb and dissipate wave energy to slow the rate of erosion. It's really an economic calculation.
Buying time, basically.
Precisely. They're buying time to change the math on an amortization schedule for highly valuable real estate, allowing homeowners to physically pick up and relocate these massive houses further inland.
Which is an insane process in itself.
It is, but you are absolutely right that it highlights the sheer vulnerability of physical infrastructure compared to our digital systems.
And that vulnerability is even more apparent in our global supply chains right now. Gas prices in the U.S. crossed $4 per gallon in early April. That is a 26% increase year over year.
It's a steep climb.
In California, it's hitting $5.89. And a major driver of this month's 20% surge is the repeated opening and closing of the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. And from a systems architecture perspective, the Strait of Hormuz is the ultimate physical choke point. It's a narrow waterway sitting between Iran and Oman, yet roughly 20% of the entire world's oil supply is routed through it.
20%.
Yeah. And in software, if a server pathway goes down, a network can dynamically reroute traffic in milliseconds.
Right. The internet just finds another way around.
Exactly. But in physical global logistics, you cannot simply reroute a massive crude oil tanker without adding thousands of miles, massive fuel costs, and weeks of delay to the journey.
So a commuter in Oklahoma is paying more at the pump because of the geographic constraints of a tiny waterway halfway across the world. The compounding effects in physical systems are completely unforgiving.
They are. And when you sit with all of this information, the fragility of supply chains, the relentless erosion of coastlines, the hyper-accelerated output of vibe coding, it creates a deep sense of cognitive overload.
Oh, absolutely.
The modern environment is relentlessly demanding our attention.
Which brings us to how human beings actually cope with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer seems to be that we artificially engineer environments where we are forced to disconnect.
Yes, forced isolation.
Take the Masters Golf Tournament happening right now at Augusta National. They have a notoriously strict policy. Cell phones, cameras, laptops, tablets, they're all completely banned for patrons.
They're total blackout.
Yeah. They actually provide free courtesy landline phones on the grounds if you desperately need to reach the outside world. This week, former champion Mark Calcavecchia was escorted out by security simply for using his phone.
It's a fascinating inversion of value, really. In almost every other aspect of life, premium experiences offer more connectivity, more data, more integration.
Right. VIP usually means better Wi-Fi.
Exactly. But Augusta recognizes that true luxury in 2026 is the enforcement of presence.
It's so ironic.
Yeah.
In a newsletter that literally started by teaching you how to build a digital second brain to capture every single thought you have, the most exclusive ticket you can buy is to a place that forces you to rely entirely on your first brain. You just stand in the quiet and watch a golf ball fly.
Because you cannot capture the essence of it in a Markdown file. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source relates this to several seasonal events happening right now.
Like the cherry blossoms.
Yes, the cherry blossoms, or sakura, are reaching peak bloom at Mount Fuji. There's a specific location mentioned, Arakuriyama Sengen Park, where you can frame a 5-story pagoda, the cherry blossoms, and the snow-capped mountain perfectly.
It's gorgeous.
But the entire phenomenon only lasts about a week.
And it inevitably ends in the Sakura Fubuki, the cherry blossom blizzard, where all the petals just scatter in the wind.
Precisely. We see the same tied-to-nature timing with Easter traditions. The holiday operates on the shifting lunar calendar, the first full moon after the spring equinox.
Right.
The appeal of the cherry blossoms, or a tradition like baking hot cross buns on Good Friday, lies entirely in their ephemeral nature. You cannot pause them.
You definitely can't vibe code a shortcut to experience them.
No, you can't. Their value is derived from their impermanence. You just have to be there.
And when human beings actually learn to block out that noise and exist entirely in the present moment, that is when we see the absolute peak of human achievement.
We really do.
We have a slate of updates that highlight this extreme focus. NASA's Artemis II safely splashed down on April 10th. The crew completed a 10-day mission around the far side of the moon.
Which is a massive achievement.
Huge. And with a highly diverse crew, too. They broke the record for the farthest any human has ever traveled from Earth, reaching 252,757 miles away.
An incredible demonstration of sustained focus and mechanical precision.
It really is. By the way, looking at all these space updates in the newsletter made me pick up a book on anti-gravity this week.
Oh, yeah. How is it?
It's completely impossible to put down.
I'll let you have that one, mostly because the physics of defying gravity transitions perfectly into what we were discussing.
Look, we have to laugh at the magnitude of this stuff. But speaking of space history, today, April 11th, marks the anniversary of the 1970 Apollo 13 launch.
Ah, yes.
We all know it as the famous successful failure, where an oxygen tank exploded 56 hours into the flight, and they had to use the tiny lunar module as a lifeboat to survive.
It creates a really compelling contrast. Artemis II is the pinnacle of planned precision, while Apollo 13 is the pinnacle of forced real-time adaptation.
And that drive for perfection, whether it's planned or improvised, completely dictates how we view modern sports. The newsletter highlights an absurd run of athletic dominance this week.
Across multiple disciplines, too.
Yeah. You have Tadej Pogacar launching a solo attack to tie the Tour of Flanders record. Erling Haaland scoring a hat-trick for Man City in just 18 minutes. Wang Chuqin capturing the World Cup in table tennis.
The statistics coming out of these events are genuinely difficult to contextualize.
Well, take Nikola Jokic's performance against Wembanyama.
Okay.
He put up 40 points and 13 assists, which is incredible, but the truly staggering stat is 0 turnovers.
0. That's insane.
In a high-speed, deeply physical game, to handle the ball that much and never make a mistake isn't just about physical skill. It's about processing speed. He is reading the spatial geometry of the court so fast that he anticipates the defense before it even forms.
Incredible.
And we see that same mental compartmentalization in snooker. Zhao Shintong just swept the Players Series. He has remarkably never lost a ranking final.
Never lost a final.
Never. To maintain that streak requires an ability to completely wipe the pressure of the previous shot from your mind.
That kind of sustained focus is as much a mathematical certainty to them as the structure of a tournament itself.
Well, let's test some of that mathematical certainty right now. The source threw in a fun logic puzzle about the expanded 2026 FIFA World Cup. Let's see how fast you process it.
Oh boy. Okay, let's hear it.
All right. You have a 4-team group. Every team plays every other team exactly once. How many total matches are played in that group?
Okay, well, let's map it out step by step for the listener. You have 4 teams. Let's call them A, B, C, and D.
Tracking so far.
Team A has to play the other 3 teams, so that's 3 matches.
Yep.
Now look at Team B. They've already played Team A, so they only need to play Team C and D. That's 2 more matches.
Okay, we're up to 5.
Finally, Team C has already played A and B, so they just need to play Team D, which is 1 match. Add those up, 3 plus 2 plus 1, and you get exactly 6 total matches.
A flawless breakdown. But looking at these achievements, 6 clean matches, 0 turnovers, an undefeated streak in finals. We clearly celebrate perfection.
We do.
But when you look back at something like Apollo 13, I have to ask, aren't the failures, the chaotic moments where the systems break and you have to improvise a solution, aren't those the moments that actually reveal what humans are capable of?
They reveal our resilience, yes. Perfection shows us what is possible when all the variables are controlled. Resilience shows us what is possible when the variables turn against us.
That's a great distinction.
And finding the balance between capturing every detail and knowing what to strip away is exactly what defined the career of Wu Guanzhong.
Right. He's highlighted in the newsletter as one of China's most important modern painters.
He spent his life blending Western Impressionism with traditional Chinese inkwash painting. His most beloved works are his Jianmian paintings, depicting these beautiful waterside villages. But what makes them profound is his aggressive process of reduction. He would paint these same villages over and over, using only the most basic geometric forms.
Like what?
Like stark white rectangles for the walls, slashing dark lines for the roofs. He deliberately stripped away the doors, the windows, the people, the noise, until only the rhythm and the raw feeling of the landscape remained on the canvas.
So when we look at his paintings, what is the takeaway for someone trying to navigate 2026?
The takeaway is that Wu Guanzhong was doing on canvas exactly what you, the listener, are trying to do with your own learning process.
How so?
In an era where a vibe-coding AI can generate 1,000 apps in an hour and your Obsidian vault can store millions of interconnected thoughts, true mastery isn't about capturing every single available data point.
It's about curation.
Yes, it is about having the wisdom to strip away the noise until you find the core truth.
Wow. What an incredible through line. We started today looking at the ultimate digital leverage of plain text and autonomous code generation.
We really covered a lot.
We did. We navigated the compounding complexities of microscopic quantum batteries and the unyielding physical realities of eroding coastlines and global choke points.
We traveled 252,000 miles into space.
We analyzed the processing speed of elite athletes and finally found a moment of quiet reflection in the stripped-down canvases of Wu Guanzhong. Oh, and I almost forgot. We could always give an award to a scarecrow for being outstanding in his field.
Okay, I think that's quite enough dad jokes for one day.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Yes.
But it is a vast amount of terrain to cover.
It is, but it leaves us with an essential framework.
Absolutely.
And this raises an important question for you to consider as we wrap up. You've spent this deep dive exploring how systems scale and how technology allows us to capture and organize the entire world.
Right.
But as you go about your week, ask yourself, which parts of your life require the Obsidian treatment? You know, the careful tracking, the compounding of knowledge, the rigorous organization.
Hyperfocus.
Exactly. And which parts of your life desperately need the Augusta Masters treatment where you just put the phone away, stop trying to capture the data, and simply watch the Sakura Fuguki happening right in front of you?
I couldn't have said it better.
No.
Thank you for joining us on this custom-tailored exploration today. We hope we helped you find a little more signal in all that noise. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep stripping away the non-essentials, and keep digging deeper.